Yeah.
No, we can't see you.
But it's activated.
الفيديو بتاعه الفيديو بتاعه اكتيفيتد بس الصوره مش ظاهره يا طارق.
لازم يفتح الفيديو الاول وبعدين يعمل شير.
هو عامل اكتيفيشن للفيديو كده.
طيب انا هشير من عندي الفيديو دلوقتي ومع بال ما هو يجهز.
اوكي.
جيراد اهو دخل.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, volleyball family in Africa. And we are now going to start a new initiative from CVB, inviting the renowned beach volleyball instructor all over the world, Mr. Jose Casanova. We welcome also all the guests, and we welcome Dr. Alwani, African Volleyball Confederation President, and also FIB Vice President. And we allow him to start the meeting with his speech. Dr. Amr Alwani.
Good afternoon, everybody. Of course, I welcome Casanova, our fantastic super star of beach volleyball referee and rule of the game. Gerard Majid, our CBB referee commission president. And of course, Tariq Al-Adwar, Tariq Sulaiman, Enzo, and of course, all IHAB. And of course, we are welcoming these regular webinar, but today is a special event that we will have the experience of Mr. Casanova. But before we start everything, I just want to have a moment of silence because we lost one of the pioneer in African volleyball, Mr. Mohammed Hamdi. He used to be the president of Morocco Volleyball Federation and vice president of CVB in the late 90s. And I have to say great condolence to his family and to Morocco volleyball family, and of course, all the African volleyball. So can we all have a moment of silence in his respect? Thank you. Okay. God bless his soul. And now we continue our valuable information from the referee pioneer, Mr. Joseph Casanova. And of course, we are joined by Mr. Majid and the rest, and our CBB instructor, Mr. Ihab Tadros. And good luck, everybody. And I will listening to all the valuable medical new approaches in beach volleyball. You have the floor, Mr. Casanova.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I cannot connect the video. I was looking in the profiles, but I cannot find the solution. But anyway, I will mostly work from PowerPoint presentation. And first of all, let me congratulate you, CAVB, for this initiative. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And as usual, I'm very happy and proud in working together with the African Confederation. Thank you for this invitation, and welcome everybody, and hello to my good friends. Thank you. So should I now share the screen?
Before sharing the screen,
yes, yes.
I need
Tarek, wait, please. I like to let Majid say one word before we go in, because he's one of the eminent referee family, and he's a CVB in charge of everything. So he have to say some welcome speech to everybody. Majid. Your audio, Majid. Unmute your. No, Majid, you cannot. You have to do unmute your mic. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, dear President. Thank you, dear President. Thank you, everybody. And I would like to present my thanks to my big friend, Casanova, for the acceptance to direct this seminar. I think that we will benefit for his big experience, and I am sure that all the information that he will give us in the seminar will be very useful for our CAVB beach volleyball referees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Majid. Before Mr. Casanova start his presentation, I need just to present one of the pillars of volleyball and beach volleyball of the world, Mr. Jose Fernando Lopez Casanova. This is his name. Is born in Vila Nova de Gaia in Porto, in Portugal. He was a formal volleyball player and a coach at the national level and the international volleyball referee from 1979 until 2001. Also, he was an international beach volleyball referee from 1996 to 2001. He was an FIB beach volleyball referee delegate and technical delegate since 1996. He officiated more than 500 international matches, which is a great record for that man. He also, including 4 CEV club finals, 3 European Championship finals, 15 World Championships, and also 150 World Tours, beach volleyball World Tours, 5 Olympic Games, and 2 Youth Olympic Games. At the FIB level, he was a referee commission in the referee commission between 2001 to 2016. Also, between member of the Beach Volleyball World Council between 2001 and 2008, member in the Beach Volleyball Commission between 2009 and 2012, secretary of FIB Refereeing and Rules of the Game Commission from 2016 till now. This is a brief of his history. Of course, we have one of the pillars. Thank you, Mr. Jose, to start now your presentation.
Thank you very much. So let me go to share the screen. Yes. So, is this okay?
It's okay.
Yes, it's okay, the screen, yes.
Okay, okay. I just need to move, okay. So, what we are going to talk about during these next 2 hours is, as agreed, is the new medical assistance protocols. First of all, this was supposed to be implemented from 2020, from this season onwards. So the season, in fact, the season 2019 slash 2020. However, due to the COVID situation, in fact, we only implemented these new protocols in one tournament, in one FIVB World Tour tournament, which was the one in Qatar at the beginning of the season in February. After that, we have shut down, so we did not have the opportunity to share anymore. Please let me know if I'm clear. Everybody is listening. Yes, good sound. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So in fact, we don't have yet experience on these new medical assistant protocols. Another thing that I would like to clarify before we move forward is that these new protocols are a bit complicated and in fact, they need really experience on the field of play for people to be able to understand and be fully able to implement these and understand the principles behind, etc. The other thing that I would like also to point out is that these new medical assistance protocols is the result or the outcome of a situation that we faced with a decision made by the last board, the last Congress, which was that medical timeout would be only possible to implement for blood injury situations. Then we were left with the tricky situation of how to assist players in other eventual injury situations that could prevent them from finishing the game. We need to understand here one element which is fundamental in beach volleyball 2 against 2, which is the fact that we do not have substitutions. So by the fact that we do not have substitutions, the consequence is that if a player gets injured and has no ability to get medical assistance, then most probably the game will finish, will be interrupted and finished. And this, I'm sure we all understand that this would create a very critical situation for our sport, especially in major games. Let's imagine a final of the Olympic Games, or let's imagine a final of the World Championships, and a match finishes in the middle of the first set because a player got injured and could not keep playing. So this is why we had to create some parallel solutions to allow medical assistance to the players, regardless the fact that the medical timeout now is only possible for blood-related injuries. Another principle that we need also to understand, and this was stated, in fact, by our president, Dr. Ari Graça, is that the principle for the players not, and let me say something before this. The big issue with the medical assistance in the past is that the players used a lot to abuse this system, the possibility of getting medical assistance in order to stop the game if they didn't have if they didn't have timeouts, team timeouts, if they would need for some reason to interrupt the game and get back in the game or destroy the momentum of the opponents, etc. So we have been during these past years always trying to perfection the system in order to avoid that the players can abuse the system. And now let me go back to what our president said in relation to this new design of the medical assistance protocols, is that we will create a system that will try to always help the players if genuinely they got injured during the match, and it must be a situation which is visible and proved as visible during the match. Otherwise, could be blood, could be other situations traumatic that I will explain later. Otherwise, if a player is sick or if a player is not fit at that specific match or tournament, or if a player brings an injury from other tournaments, from home. If the player brings an injury with him, then this player is not protected by the medical assistance protocols. The medical assistance protocols will only work for incidents occurring during the matches. This is the basic principle that everybody has to understand, especially the referees, because this is what will allow them to make the decision to award the medical assistant protocol to the players. Another important aspect that I would like to, before I start my presentation, that I would like to explain, especially to the referees, is that a principle changed here. Before, the players were the ones asking for the medical assistance, for the medical timeout. Now, it's the referee that, facing the incident, will decide if the player is entitled to receive the medical assistance or not. Okay, so let's go to the presentation, and let's go through the various points. So, medical assistance protocols. This is the decision of the World Congress 2018 in Cancun, Mexico, where the medical timeout is limited to bleeding-related issues. Accordingly, the protocol procedure has been updated at the beach volleyball refereeing guidelines and instructions. Now, what did we create parallel? In addition to the regular game interruptions, such as timeout, technical timeout, and timeout, recovery interruption entitles the athlete to medical assistance without any delay to the game for the scenarios below, but not limited to significant injury caused by a trauma incident suffered during the course of the match, and illness in relation to severe weather conditions only applicable if severe weather conditions such as extreme heat, etc., being officially declared by the technical delegate, or use of toilet. Okay, so we see here in this slide, we see that we have medical timeout for blood-related injuries, and then we have a new figure, which is a new formula, which is the recovery interruption. This one here, recovery interruption, which is for trauma incidents during the match and illness in relation to severe weather conditions or use of toilet. Okay, let's go now and try to understand what each of these things relates to and how it works. So as I mentioned before, with the fact that the responsibility now is on the shoulders of the referee to determine if the player is entitled to receive the medical assistance, the referees during the match, first and second referee, in fact, they should be aware of all the circumstances leading up to the injury or illness, as they are responsible to establish its nature, if blood or traumatic or weather related. And they should also be aware of the extent of the injury, if the injury is minor or significant, because I will explain later, if the injury is minor, we deal with the problem without starting a medical assistance protocol. Only if significant, we start a medical assistance protocol. So this is very important that the referees understand that this concept changed, that now they need to understand what's happening in the game in relation to injuries. So let's go to what I think, because again, I say we didn't have so much experience, but what I think would be the easier one because we already dealt with it in the past. The blood related, which now is the medical timeout. Only medical timeout is only for blood related injuries. Then in blood related, as we can see here, in blood related, then we can add minor or significant. Already in the past, we had minor or significant. So if it's minor, it's treated with no delay. So we have the medical kit on the scorer's table. We can bandage, we can put some alcohol or clean something, and then go. No need, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, no need to start the medical assistance protocol. This is authorized by the first referee, okay? Then, if the blood injury is significant, then, and by the way, this is valid for all other situations of medical assistance protocols. First, the team is always forced to use, if they have an available timeout, or if we go to an interval between sets. So first, or if we go to a technical timeout. So first, the team has to use this 1 minute time to try and fix the problem. Only after this time is exhausted, then the referee will authorize the start of the medical timeout, which will be maximum 5 minutes. The counting of the medical timeout, I will also explain this later in relation to the score sheet, to the electronic score sheet. The counting will start from the moment the protocol is initiated by the first referee. And I will also explain later what do we mean with the protocol being initiated by the first referee. Okay, so this is the blood related, so the medical timeout. Now, then for traumatic injury, we have what we call the recovery interruption. So we designate like RIT, RIT, traumatic injury. This is only for incidents occurred during play, such like the player hits the net pole, or a clash between players, or the ball hits the finger of the player and dislocates the finger, or things like this, or a twist of the ankle. Things that are visible and that occurred during play. Again, I repeat what I said before, not an injury carried by the player from home or from a previous tournament. An injury occurred during play, and this is why I told first that the referees must be aware of the circumstances leading up to the injury, because this will make their decision. This will help them making the decision. Okay. Now, again, like for the medical timeout for the blood related, also we divide into minor injury, minor traumatic injury, or significant traumatic injury. So if it is a minor injury, like the player just hit the pole, but needs like 15, 20 seconds to fix things. Okay, in this case, this is treated again with no delay and no medical assistance is required. Otherwise, if the traumatic incident is significant, again, first the team has to use a timeout, a technical timeout, or other regular interruptions like set interval, if we are at the time of the set interval. And only after that, the recovery interruption is awarded by the first referee. Again, maximum 5 minutes. It is not a fixed time, 5 minutes. We have to always to deal with these kind of injuries the quickest the possible, but it will never last more than 5 minutes. Then the next, so these are basically the two biggest cases that we can have for medical assistance during the tournaments. Blood related, which is medical timeout, and then traumatic injury, which is recovery interruption. Now, we can have also recovery interruption awarded to the players under exceptional circumstances. And which is this? This is related to severe weather conditions. But this does not happen everywhere. This does not happen eventually during all the tournament. We only implement this when the weather is so bad that the technical supervisor, technical delegate decides that we need to apply extra measures. We already have this in our handbook. And for instance, this is, for instance, when we allow players to drink between the court switches. This is when we give an extra technical timeout at the sum of 42 points. This is, for instance, when we extend the 12 seconds between rallies to 15 seconds. So when the technical delegate declares that a tournament, not necessarily from the first day of the tournament, not necessarily for the entire tournament, maybe just on Friday or Saturday, because the conditions are exceptional on that day. When the technical delegate declares that the tournament is under severe weather conditions, then the referees are allowed to award a recovery interruption to a player that, for instance, suffers from difficult conditions in breathing and things like this, is dehydrated, things like this, then this player will be authorized to receive medical assistance. Again, like in the other cases of medical assistance, first the team has to use a timeout or a technical timeout or a set interruption if we are at that moment of the game in those circumstances. And again, this recovery interruption is for a maximum of 5 minutes. Again, like all the others we spoke before, authorized by the first referee, with the counting starting from the moment initiated by the first referee. And then finally, we have the fourth possible scenario, which is very unusual, but can happen. It's for the use of toilets. So if a player delays the normal sequence of the game while using the toilets, for instance, a player at the interval runs to the toilet and does not get back. We know that the set interval is total 1 minute, or during a timeout, or during a technical timeout, could be any of these examples. So the player runs to the toilet and does not get back to the court in time, and then delays the game. In this case, the first referee will award to this player a medical timeout, a recovery interruption protocol, which means that as soon as the player gets back to the court, then we resume the match, but still the player is already, let's say, sanctioned with the use of these recovery interruption. Later, I will speak how many of these can each player use, etc., so that you understand better. Okay. Another concept that we need to understand at the bottom of this graphic, you can see medical assistance is authorized at any regular and other game interruptions as long as the game is not delayed. What does this mean? This means that, for instance, a player that doesn't want to lose a medical timeout, a recovery interruption, or even a medical timeout, doesn't want to use these, they can, as currently already we are doing this, they can have their physio or their medical close by, and when a team is in the set interval or when a team asks for a timeout, the physio can go and help the player, as long as not delaying the game. As soon as the referee whistles, the team's back to the court, so the player has to go back to the court, and this is okay. This works fine. Okay, so I would now give the floor, if you think it's okay, just to make sure that everybody understood. So the people that are following the seminar, so that everybody understood uh, these differences between medical timeout and then the three possible scenarios for recovery interruption: traumatic, weather conditions, and use of toilet. Okay, anyone has any questions? No questions?
If any questions, we will drop to you at the second stop.
Okay.
Because people are following up you now, and they need to complete the session until we have questions.
Okay. Okay. So let me move to the next slide. Now, as I said before, now I'm going to link these four different scenarios. So medical timeout, recovery interruption for traumatic illness, recovery interruption for illness, severe weather, and recovery interruption for use of toilets. And let's try to understand how many times a player can benefit of these during the match. Okay, so blood-related injury. This normally happens not so much. It can happen. From experience, I can say that this is very rare, but of course it can happen. But anytime it happens, the player must be assisted because we cannot play with blood. Blood contaminates the balls. And of course, now in COVID, time is even worse, but blood already in the past contaminates the balls. So we need to clear the wound, make sure that there is no blood spits, and get the player back to the court. So for this means that anytime we have a blood injury, we have to interrupt the game. So a medical timeout is allowed for blood-related injury anytime, at any and all times. So as long as we have blood, we have to stop and allow the player to be treated and keep playing. Okay? So this means that a player, again, I say it's very unusual that a player gets blood injuries. Even it would be more unusual that a player gets 1, 2, 3 blood injuries during a game. But if this happens, the player is allowed to receive treatment anytime there is a blood injury. Traumatic injury. So the next one, recovery interruption. So let's put out medical timeout, which is for blood. Now let's speak about the three scenarios for recovery interruption. Recovery interruption for traumatic injury. Okay, again, also here, the treatment allowed at any and all times. Why? Because I can have a clash against an opponent and I need medical assistance. I can have a clash against the pole, and again, I need medical assistance. And remember what I said at the beginning, we are trying that the game does not stop. We are trying that the game goes until the end and that we have a fair winner, okay? Of course, again, also like I said before, anytime we have to implement one of these interruptions, we try to make sure that this is done as fast as possible with the least delay to an interruption to the match. However, when we have a traumatic injury, I already mentioned that this is allowed at any and all times for a given player. However, this player is not entitled to a second recovery interruption to treat an injury resulting from a previous trauma incident in the match. What do I mean with this? Let's give an example. A player hits the pole, okay? and then he receives treatment. And then later, 10 minutes later, he is complaining from the same injury. In this case, he will not be entitled to receive a new recovery interruption for this same incident. If he has a different incident, a different traumatic incident, yes, he can receive a second recovery interruption in the game. But if the injury is from the previous incident, he cannot receive treatment. He can receive treatment, like I said before, during the timeout, during the interval, during the technical timeout. He goes to the bench, the physio goes there, tries to help him, but no delay to the game, and we keep playing. Okay? I hope that this is clear. And now let's go to the recovery interruption in relation to the severe weather conditions or to the use of toilets. Here, from these two, a player can only use one for the entire match. Okay? If the player gets assisted under exceptional weather circumstances, again, I repeat, like I said before, if we have severe weather conditions declared by the technical delegate and the player needs to be assisted due to illness in relation to severe weather, okay, he can only be assisted one time in the match, but then he is blocked for the use of toilet. He cannot use another recovery interruption for the use of toilet, and vice versa. If a player gets use of toilets recovery interruption, then if this same player would need later a recovery interruption for severe weather, for in relation to severe weather, then they would not be allowed. So let me try to translate this in summary. Blood-related injuries, as many as the player needs in the game. Recover interruption for traumatic injury, as many as the player needs in the game, but never for the same injury, for the same traumatic incident, or from the injury resulting from the same traumatic incident. And then recovery interruption for severe weather or use of toilets. From these two, only one for the entire match. Okay? Moving forward, I think now before we go to details, I think now we should really try to stop here and get questions, because what I spoke until now is basically all the mechanics of all the different scenarios we can have. So what kind of medical assistance we have and what rights do the players have in relation to these medical assistance protocols. What do you think? Should we try to get questions from people?
I have one question here. Simply because of COVID-19 pandemic now, is there any actions related to COVID-19 have been taken care of if matches are continued, meaning that due to droplet infection of COVID-19, is there any action related to cleaning the balls, doing something like that?
Yes, sure. The FIB is working now in a document. We have been making meetings like this one between the members of the Beach Commission. And the FIB is now working on a document which is called basically Safe Return to Beach Volleyball. Of course, many of these things in relation with the travel of the officials and the players and how to live in the venue, how to live at the hotel, and of course, in relation to playing the game, we have proposals for all these, like the balls being replaced, being cleaned by the ball retrievers. The ball retrievers, for instance, using gloves and having the towels replaced from now and then, and the towels be having like a disinfecting product. Anytime that they prepare the balls for the players, they are disinfecting the balls in the 5-system rotation ball rotation system. So all these things are being prepared, and for sure this will be covered.
There is another question related to that because, of course, all the coaches are following up what's happening in other sports like football. The question is there any medical actions like doing some analysis of PCR for COVID-19 if the activity is resumed again in the World Championships, in World Tours, etc.?
Yes. Let me just tell you something. This is not. I mean, I know what's happening and I know what the FIB is preparing, but this is not under the scope of this presentation that I'm doing today. Okay, I can talk, but I'm not the right person to talk about that. But for sure, yes, they are planning actions like temperature measure, like disinfection, all the disinfecting protocols. Eventually, also they are preparing things like, for instance, if a player has symptoms, or a player or a referee or an official, if they have symptoms, they have to follow the protocol. They have to present themselves to the medical. There will be a specific medical crew just dedicated to COVID in the tournament, and then they will have to be identified. As soon as they have symptoms, they have to present themselves to this specific medical crew, and then be followed. Eventually, go to quarantine, depending, making the test. All these things are being prepared by the FAB. I know this is being very prepared, very well prepared in detail, and so we will only go back to play when all these things are decided. Of course, the FIB prepares these their own policies and their own principles, but for sure, as everywhere, any regulations that the countries may have uh, will always prevail in relation to our regulations. If a country says that nobody will be able to, no player, no referee will be able to enter this country without a test, a negative test, for instance, or without, or that they need to be tested upon arrival, or this or that, we have to respect all these decisions and policies by the countries. The FIB is preparing their own document in order to deal with the promoters, with the organizers. We will have all these regulations in place, but we must always respect what the country has as rules, because each country can have their own different rules, and the rules in the country must prevail for sure.
Thank you very much. Another question from Giovanni Beck. Will the referees be informed of any known injuries carried into the tournament by players?
Sorry, I didn't. Can you repeat?
Will the referees be informed of any known injuries carried into the tournament by players?
You know, the supervisor, the referee delegate, the technical delegate, they have this. Okay, they have a control from tournament to tournament, and parallel. I can also inform that parallel to this system that we have now for the medical assistance protocols, we also changed something in the follow-up of an injury. And this is that a player that gets injured in one tournament must be, before they needed to go to the medical doctor of the tournament, and then go back home, and then bring a special form, back to the next tournament, saying that they are in good condition to play. Now, this will be different. This is something that goes beyond what I'm presenting today, because it's not our job as referees, it's the job of the technical delegates. But anyway, the system will work like this. So the player now will get the paper at the tournament that he gets injured, will take the paper with them home, and then at the next tournament, before they start playing, they will have to be checked by the doctor, by the medical doctor of the next tournament, before they go to the technical meeting or before they go to the preliminary inquiry. And if the medical doctor says, yes, the player is fit to play, they can play the tournament. But if the doctor of the next tournament, upon arrival, when they are checked, they say, no, this player is not fit to play, they cannot play the tournament, okay? So this is another way of preventing that the players fake injuries or the players bring injuries to the tournament. However, I would like to tell to everybody and to Giovanni that this is not so important for us, because what we have to observe is not if the player. I will show you a video in some time. The only example we have from 2020 in Qatar, from February this year. But the referee does not have to care if the player brings an injury or not. What the referee has to care is about what happens in the game. So if a player clashes with the opponent, okay? If a player clashes with the pole, okay? Or the ball hits the, and you have to see, you know, as a referee, you have to visibly see the impact of the traumatic incident. For instance, if a finger gets dislocated, you can see, you can understand this. If the ankle gets twisted, you can understand this. If a player twists the knee, you can understand this, because these are very painful and difficult injuries. Otherwise, if a player, you know, I will show you the video that we had in Qatar, where in this case, the player was not allowed because something happened, he was tired or he had an injury with him. And after a long play, he went to the bench and tried to ask for a medical timeout. No, because nothing happened in the game in relation to a traumatic incident. This was for sure an injury which was carried by the player, or the player was not in the best conditions, was not fit, and was tired at that moment of the game, you know. But in these cases, as I said at the beginning, these new medical assistance protocols will not cover such scenarios, okay? I don't know if I answered enough to Giovanni. I hope so.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. You can continue, and we continue our questions.
Okay. So now, now we go a little more to the procedures. Okay. So after the referee decides that this player can benefit from a medical timeout or recovery interruption, the injured player has the right to choose the medical assistance from among the official medical personnel assigned on site, or from their own medical personnel. Okay, so either the medical people, physio and doctor from the tournament, or their own team physio or doctor. Okay, this was already like this in the past. Okay, so there is no big difference. The only difference here is the counting, because before we counted differently, and I will explain later how it will work now with these new regulations. Under all circumstances, the official medical personnel, always the one from the tournament, must be requested to come to the court, as it will be their responsibility to supervise the treatment and report to the first referee when the treatment is completed, or if noted, more treatment is possible. So again, this was already like this in the past. When treatment has been completed, or if no treatment can be provided in that short time period, again, I repeat, maximum 5 minutes, the play must resume, or the relevant team is declared incomplete for the set or the match as applicable. Unless for bleeding cases, the decision whether a player is medical fit or not to resume after an injury illness depends entirely upon the player. However, before a player being allowed to return to the court, the bleeding has to be completely stopped or contained, closed, so that no blood spill can occur. Okay, everybody understands this? Safety measures. Now, let's speak about, I already mentioned it before, in general. Now let's go to the detail. How to time the medical assistance protocol. The duration of the medical assistance shall be electronically timed from the moment the scorer hits the relevant button at the e-score sheet, with the timer being displayed at the lead score. Okay, what do we mean? As soon as the scorer receives the indication from the first referee, okay, start the medical timeout. So they hit the button and the counting starts, and it will show in the lead score, like in the same place where we show the score, 15-10, 11-11, timeouts, etc. It will show, or in the same place where we show the duration, for instance, the countdown of a timeout, for instance. In this case, it will show the count up to 5 minutes. The timing shall start from the whistle of the first referee after she initiates his medical timeout or the recovery interruption, ending when the lead score buzzer signals the end of the maximum authorized 5 minutes. In this case, it will buzz at the end of the 5 minutes if we go until 5 minutes, because we can interrupt before if the player is treated before that. But if we go until the 5 minutes, at 5 minutes it will buzz and you have to go back to the court play, okay, or finish the match because of injury. Or at the whistle of the first referee, immediately after treatment is declared complete by the official medical personnel, or if no treatment can be provided, or when the player declares that she is ready to resume play. So this is what I was saying before. This can happen before the 5 minutes. In case no electronic score sheet being applied, the medical assistance, like we used to do in the past, will be manually timed by the official scorer. Now, when we need to understand now this concept of when does the first referee, what do we mean when we say first referee initiates the medical timeout or the recovery interruption? The first referee shall initiate the protocol upon arrival of the official medical personnel, in case this has been the choice of the injured player. Otherwise, if no official medical personnel available, or if the player asked for their own accredited medical personnel, then the first referee shall initiate the protocol immediately. Now, for the referees that were used to the former protocol, we used to distinguish these two situations here with 3 timings for the official medical personnel request and 2 timings for the team medical personnel. Okay, now we have only 1 timing, which is from when the referee initiates, but the referee initiates upon arrival of the medical personnel. Okay, so in the case of the official medical personnel, but our expectation, because we also changed the regulations of the World Tour for the organizers, our expectations is that this assistance will be very fast, even at the outside courts, because now the organizers will be obliged to have dedicated medical teams on the center court and in the outside courts, who can immediately jump to the court if needed. But of course, and this is in line with the rules. By the way, the rules of the game never changed. We did not need to change the rules of the game for all these adjustments. So the rules of the game, they remain exactly the same. And the rules of the game, they state that if no medical personnel is available, that we need to resume match. Okay, so basically we will push a lot the organizers, so that this time, because this was in fact the biggest, one of our biggest problems was that we could stay waiting for 5-10 minutes for the medical people to get to the court. So with these new regulations, in fact, and all the regulations that we have adjusted at the handbook and the contracts with the organizers, we expect that this will be much faster, and that's why we consider this time irrelevant. We ignore it. Hopefully, it will never be above 1 minute, and so when we start the counting of the 5 minutes. For a medical timeout, before a player being allowed to return to the court, the bleeding has to be completely stopped and contained. We already spoke about that. And medical assistance may, in any case, be provided to players at regular game interruptions, timeout, technical timeout, set intervals, with no delay to the game. We already mentioned this also. Complementing what I was saying before, to be able to provide treatment during matches, official medical personnel must, while team medical personnel are recommended to, be seated in the immediate courtside area during the match. So this for center court and for side court. No additional time will be granted to wait for team's medical personnel to make their way to the court. Okay, this is written here. We know between us referees that we will give the necessary time for the medical people to get to the court, but this is written here to push everybody to understand that this must be fast. Official medical personnel, first aid, physician, and physical therapists are required at courtside area at all court locations, allowing quick and qualified response to athletes' medical assistance during the game. Anytime a forfeit due to injury, illness occurs, including before the match starts, official medical personnel and the FAB medical delegate, if one is appointed to the event, they must be present. In the case of an athlete being authorized or assigned a recovery interruption or forfeiting a match due to an alleged injury, illness, immediately following the relevant score sheet administration, she will be given a copy of the BVB 49 by the match referee. This was already done in the past. The only thing that changed, like I said before, is the contents of the BVB 49 and the procedures. So as I explained before, now the player receives the BVB 49. They have to go to the medical doctor of the tournament. They have to go to the technical delegate. But in the next tournament, they must go again to the medical doctor of the tournament, and before they come with the authorization of their own federation medical doctor or their own team medical doctor. Now it's the official medical doctor of the next tournament that has to endorse them and tell us that they are ready to play the tournament. This is the new BVB 49. So, like I just said, only the tournament's official physician can clear an athlete for competing after the use of recovery interruption or after forfeiting a match due to alleged injury, illness. This is done through the use of the BVB 49. And by the way, just to complement a little what I said before, this is only applied for the next match in the tournament. I mean, let's imagine that a player gets injured during a match, and he uses, let's say, for instance, in pool play, first match of the pool, they get injured, they use a recovery interruption due to traumatic incident. They use a recovery interruption. So before they play their second match in the pool, they have to go through the medical doctor, and the medical doctor of the tournament has to say that they are in conditions to play the next match. And this is also valid if this is their last match in this tournament, then they need to be endorsed by the medical doctor of the next tournament, as I already mentioned. This is basically what is written here. So if this is during the tournament, the endorsement by the official medical doctor of that tournament will entitle the athlete to play any subsequent match at that tournament. But if this is at their respective last match in the tournament, then the endorsement must be by the official medical doctor of the next tournament, with the player having to be checked before the preliminary inquiry and then cleared before the main draw before the draw is closed. Could be for the qualification tournament, could be for the main draw. And what you see here at the bottom is the new BVB 49 with all the changes, which are highlighted in red. Anyway, this is not the job of the referees. This is just for people to understand the system. Here, the only job of the referee in relation to the BVB 49 is to give the form to the player at the end of the match, and eventually to explain to the technical delegate or to the medical doctor of the tournament what they saw in relation to the traumatic incident, for instance, if they are asked by any of these officials. Now, let's jump to try and see how this reflects these new medical assistance protocols, how they reflect at the electronic score sheet. So we deleted all the procedures that we had before, which was basically the medical timeout, and then we had the different medical possibilities of a medical timeout. Now this is the way it works. So basically, we created two columns, one for medical timeout, which will be on one side, on the left side, and one for recovery interruption, which then will split into the three possible types of recovery interruptions later. So first, what do we do at the score sheet? We go up here, and we delay, misconduct, challenge remarks, okay, at the top, okay? Then we will go into the next, in the next window, we click medical assistance, okay? And then when we click medical assistance, we get to this window where we have two options, medical timeout one side, recovery interruption the other side, okay? Medical timeout here in blue, recovery interruption in white. If we follow, then after this, if we click let's say we click medical timeout, then we go select team. The same would be if we click recovery interruption. Our next window will ask us to select the team, okay? So we select the team, and this would be, in this case, in the example, Alan Brunner from USA. Then we select the player. This would be, in this case, player number 1 from USA, okay? And then we go start the timer, okay? Start the timer. So basically, at this point, what would have happened when the referee says, okay, I'm authorizing a medical timeout, okay? So we go to this process, and when we get to start timer, we stop until the referee initiates. He first authorized, but now he needs to initiate. So it's when the referee blows the whistle, which, as I explained before, he will do when the official medical doctor comes to the court, or he will do immediately if the team asks for their own medical doctor. So it's at this point when the referee whistles and shows the 5 minutes that the scorer hits start timer, and then we have the lead score showing the count up from 0 to 5, okay? Then, as in the past, imagine that something happened. The doctor that came to the court forgot the equipment, or something happened that we need to abort the timer. We have this option, okay? We start the timer, then we can abort, and then we can resume match or forfeit due to injury, okay? We have all these options. One thing here is so this basically is the process for the mega timeout, which is more simple than the process for the recovery interruption, because in the recovery interruption at the bottom we have 3 options, okay? So we would go the same. So hit delay misconduct challenge remarks, hit medical assistance, then hit recovery interruption on the right side, then select the team, select the player, and then it will give us in this last window at the bottom, on the right side at the bottom, you can see in the screen, we have 3 options, which are the 3 possible types of recovery interruptions: traumatic incident, traumatic injury, illness in relation to severe weather, or use of toilets. So we will hit the relevant one, okay, the one that corresponds to the situation that we are facing, okay, and then for the remarks at the score sheet, which are produced, as you know, in the electronic score sheet, the remarks are automatically produced, okay? Then if we want to check something, remember, for the ones that are familiar with the electronic score sheet, remember that when we would go to score sheet here on the top right side of the tablet, near the B, yellow, we have score sheet in green, we hit score sheet, and now you have 3 options for the score sheet. You have the score sheet itself, you hit score sheet if you want to see something in the score sheet, you hit challenge system if you want to see the remarks of the challenge system, and you hit medical assistance if you want to see the remarks of the medical assistant. At the right here in this slide, you have the different possible remark templates that, again, I repeat, they are in the electronic sheet. They are automatically produced depending on which buttons you click, and which, of course, in relation to which kind of situation. Could be traumatic injury, resume match, could be after forfeit due to injury, could be, you know, any of these. The electronic score sheet itself in the remarks has this new chart template, which you can see here, medical assistance chart template, which has 2 different lines for each team, A or B, the country code, and then player 1, player 2, and we have 4 boxes for medical timeout for blood, 4 boxes for traumatic incident, and 2 boxes for recovery interruption for weather or toilet. If in the electronic score sheet, if a player uses, all the other ones are open because the player can use, as I explained to you, as many as needed, as many as the referee will award. But for the recovery interruption for weather and toilet, if the player uses weather, automatically the toilet is blocked and it's not possible anymore. So this is a feature of the electronic score sheet. In any case, if we use the paper score sheet, we also have, as I show you here, again on the top of this screen, you can see we use part of the former remark section, that square. In the top part of the remarks, we put this medical assistance chart, and then we have a little less space for remarks, but if we need, more space for remarks, we can complete in another blank score sheet the remarks. But so the scorer in the paper score sheet, they have to complete these manually, this medical assistant chart, and then put the remarks, write the remarks as in the past. Of course, the score sheet instructions also changed and adapted to these. So the medical assistant chart, this new form of controlling the use of the different medical assistant protocols, will keep track of the use of the protocols by each player in the team. Remarks will simplify since only the start time and the end time will be registered. Examples, like for instance, the remark template for medical timeout. At 15:4:42, first set, 18:12, team A serving, player number 2, team B authorized for medical timeout, and then 15:09:47, match resumed, duration 5:05. Or a remark template for traumatic injury, for recovery interruption, the same. So 15:04:42, first set, 18:12, team A serving, player A, team B authorized for recovery interruption, traumatic injury. Of course, we have to put the nature of the incident, and then at 15:09:47, match resumed, duration 5:05. Okay, so now highlights. BVB 49, it's very important that the referees know when they have to deliver this form. This form must be implemented for recovery interruption, any type, forfeit due to injury before the match, and forfeit due to injury during the match. No need to implement a medical timeout, no need to implement the BVB 49 at medical timeout, which means blood injury. Accurate filling in of the score sheet at the time of any eventual game interruptions. Ensure that referees, every time a game interruption occurs, double check that the scorers have accurately filled in at the score sheet, plus the paper score sheet in case applicable, all necessary data. These must be done at medical timeout, at recovery interruption, protest protocol, prolonged interruptions. Okay, so this is what I had as PowerPoint. Let me try to show you the video that I mentioned before as an example. Okay, so here, what we will see in this video, so here, what we will see in this video is that the player number 1 in white from Swiss, he will start complaining. You will see. So this is the play before. So now look at him. He's already tired. Okay, he's moving his back. He's tired. He stays in that position. He does something, to try to recover. He goes on the other side. But there has been no incident related to traumatic. Okay, he's tired. He's maybe injured, but this is a problem he carries with him. Nothing in relation to the match. Okay, so this is the previous play, and now I will show you the video of the next play. They are already on the other side. Okay.
Sorry, Jose, we don't see the video.
No?
No.
So what happens? So what do I have to do?
Can you stop sharing the current slide and then you share again with the video?
Okay. So let me see if I get this.
So you close this sharing of the documents, and then you open the video and then share. Open the video and then share.
Yeah. The thing is, I cannot go back to. Okay. Now I go share. I have to look for the video before I go share. So let me open the video. And okay. Okay, now I go share. Where is the video? Here. Okay. Okay. So I think now should be. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is the video where, so look at player number 1 from Swiss, the one in white near the net. Okay. This guy, you see the tall player blocking now. Okay. Now setting. And when the play is finished, look at him. Okay, now look at him. See, he's tired. He's there. He's going to do something with the leg to try to recover. Okay, okay. But there is no traumatic incident. Nothing happened. It's just the fact that he's tired, he's not fit, or he has an injury from before. Okay. Now I move to the. So I have to interrupt this again, and I move to the next video. I move to the next video again. I have to share. Okay. 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 Now we are. Let's start again. Now we are starting. So the white player already is on the other side. Yes, it's the next play. Okay, everybody watching. So now this is the next play. So there he is, setting, blocking. Okay, and now look at him. Look at him. He's injured, tired, something. And now, from this position, nothing happened, no traumatic. He's going to move, look at him. He's going to move to the bench. But now the referee, he has some problem in the leg. The referee, he probably is asking for a medical timeout, but the referee is telling him he's not entitled. This is another thing that we need to understand is that because this is new, not only for the referees, but also for the players, it's normal that they don't know yet the rule, or they forget, they go to ask for a medical timeout, but then the referee needs to go back and tell them you are not entitled to a medical timeout because there is no traumatic incident. So the player has to come back to the court. Eventually here, the referee did well not giving a delay because it's a learning process. We are still teaching the players and also the referees are still learning. But in the future, of course, something like this would be, if the player delays the game, it would be a delay. But at this point, our advice is that first we need to make sure that the players understand the new system and of course, learn from it. Okay, so this is the only example we have as a potential medical timeout or as a potential recovery interruption, medical assistance, in this case, recovery interruption, that in fact never started because the player was not entitled because there was no traumatic incident during the game. It was either the player was not fit or the player was tired or the player had an injury, previous injury within. And so for these cases, we do not allow medical assistance, okay? Now, let me go to the general. I want to go to the general view. Here, can you see this? Can you see this? Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
We can see the
documents. Yes, yeah, the documents. You can see the documents. Yes, yes. So I'm sharing. I think I'm sharing this. Yes, this is my page. Yes, where I have different documents here. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what is important that the referees understand is that this is what I showed you, the medical assistance protocols, the PowerPoint. Okay. This is what the referee delegates will show to the referees at the tournaments in the clinic to teach them. Okay. Ehab, if you need, I can send you a copy of this for you. Okay. Ehab.
Okay.
Ehab, are you listening?
Yeah.
Your microphone is mute, but okay. Just give the thumbs up if you agree. If you want, I can send you this copy of the PowerPoint that I showed, okay? For you to teach the referees, okay? And then for the referees, it's very important that you study the changes at the guidelines, because the guidelines, they've changed a lot. So everything is new for the medical timeout and the recovery interruption is point 17 under exceptional game interruptions. Okay, this is all the mechanics here. And then this is all new. And then when you go to the protocols, medical assistance protocols, again, also this is all new. Okay, all new. All new. Not only what is highlighted in blue, no, everything is new. The highlighted in blue was a change that we made after Qatar. After the experience of Qatar, we changed some things. We improved the guidelines. But so this is from March. This is a document from March, which is the one which is uploaded and published at the FAVB website. It's the latest version, which is March. All these referees have to study before they go to the tournaments, because it's not in half an hour during a tournament that the referee is going to learn all these. It's very important that you make sure that your referees in the Confederation, in the African Confederation, all international referees, they study these very well. So you have to insist them that they have to study the new guidelines for this aspect. And also, as I said before, I will also send you the PowerPoint. This is the new guidelines, which I said, the ones that are published at the FAVB website. So it's the complete guidelines, and then we go to point 17. Point 17, okay, specific point 17, which is already a very good explanation, but of course, then we have to complete this with the protocol, okay, with the medical protocol, which is in the sections of the protocols, medical timeout for blood injury, medical, okay, so here is medical assistance protocols, and then we have the 4 type of situations, okay? Now, I would recoup, let's say, what we have been talking with this summary. This is the summary that we prepared for the technical meetings in the tournaments for the players, and also for them to receive a paper in the preliminary inquiries, so that they have an idea of the new protocols. And this is also important for the referees, to help the referees understanding. So, summary of the new FAVB regulations for medical assistance protocols at beach volleyball matches. New regulations are being implemented at FAVB beach volleyball competitions from the beginning of 2020 regarding medical assistance during a match. The first referee, important, I already mentioned at the beginning, the first referee will make a determination if and what kind of medical assistance may be authorized based on the various actions events during a match. A player will no longer be able to request any kind of medical assistance. Is the referee that determines, yes or no, the player is entitled or not to receive medical assistance. Then, medical timeout is MTO, and recovery interruption, RIT, Protocols, when implemented, must be dealt with the quickest possible, and the complete process must not last more than 5 minutes total, with the time counting starting from the moment the protocol is initiated by the first referee. We already talked about when is the protocol initiated by the first referee, depending on the cases. A summary of the new regulations is as follows. A, medical timeout shall be initiated by the first referee anytime during a match a serious blood-related injury that requires medical assistance occurs, but only when other regular interruptions have been exhausted or are not available, such as timeout, technical timeout, interval between sets. If a blood-related injury is minor and can be treated quickly with no delay, no medical timeout shall apply. Okay? B, the first referee shall also initiate a recovery interruption should a regular interruption not be available or have been exhausted and the player requires medical assistance for one of the following scenarios. Trauma-related injury. Trauma occurred during the match. Only one read, traumatic injury, related for the match per trauma incident. Must be a different trauma incident for a new traumatic injury to be awarded, for a new recovery interruption to be awarded to that same player.
Sorry, Mr. Casanova, just
Yes.
an interruption.
Yes.
Can you first open the Word document and then share it, because the participants are saying they cannot view it?
No. Okay, so I must interrupt and now go back.
And you can open the Word document.
Okay, okay. Now it's okay?
Thank you, perfect.
Okay, sorry. Let me go back to the summary, okay? So I will repeat back the summary. So, you see here what I'm highlighting, okay? This is what I'm going to repeat. So, a medical timeout shall be initiated by the first referee. So we are talking now about the summary of the new regulations for players to understand, and also it's helpful for the referees also to understand. A medical timeout shall be initiated by the first referee anytime during a match a serious blood-related injury that requires medical assistance occurs, but only when other regular interruptions have been exhausted or not available, like a timeout, a technical timeout, interval between sets. If the blood-related injury is minor and can be treated quickly with no delay, no medical timeout shall apply. B, the first referee shall initiate a recovery interruption should a regular interruption not be available or have been exhausted and the player requires medical assistance for one of the following scenarios. 3 scenarios like we spoke before. Trauma-related injury. Trauma occurred during the match. Only one read related for the match per trauma incident. So a player would, to have another traumatic injury recovery interruption, would need to have a different trauma incident, okay, like I explained before. Then, severe weather condition related, illness, such for instance, heat exhaustion due to extreme temperatures, only when severe weather conditions are officially established by the technical delegate of the tournament, with only one recovery interruption related per match, not cumulative with, like I already explained before, not cumulative with use of toilet, okay? Delay in use of toilet during the match, only one recovery interruption per match, okay? However, not cumulative with illness, severe weather, okay? So these two, weather related or use of toilet, a player can only have one of them, one of these two for the entire match, okay? And The final point, which we already mentioned several times, is that medical assistance can, however, in any case, be provided to a player during regular interruptions, which in our case is timeout, but also other interruptions like timeout, interval between sets, as long as this does not interfere with resuming to play or delay the game in any way. Okay, so this is the summary. So this is basically what I had to communicate with you. Now I'm open to questions.
Yes, sir. Again, we have some questions here, but I prefer if Tariq Suleiman, if it is possible to allow the participant to ask themselves, or we mention the question. Is there anyone raising his hand? Because we have questions and they ask from the webmaster to interact personally. Tariq Suleiman.
Okay.
Okay. Can you allow any of the participants to ask personally?
Hazim.
Hazim, okay. Hazim already put questions in the chat, but he will ask himself.
Correct. If we can make Hazim a panelist temporarily, and he can ask his question.
Yeah. Allow Hazim to be as a panelist, Tariq, and then he will ask personally.
Tariq, I think Hazim is not online at the moment. We can proceed to Dr. Deboy. I think he asked some questions as well.
Yes, Dr. Deboy, one of our technical delegates from Cameroon, he is following everything, and he asked a question. Recovery interaction RIT protocol is authorized by first referee, but in case of traumatic, it should be only at the request of the player. Is it right? This is his question.
No, the player has no right to request. This was in the past. Now the player has no right to request. Is at the discretion of the referee. The referee has to observe the situation, and then if they see, we have this procedure. If a player, normally if a player gets injured, or they move to the bench, or they sit in the sand, and then the referee has to go to the player and try to investigate what's happening. If the player says they are injured, then it's up to the referee to tell them. If there has been a traumatic incident, then the referee will say, okay, we'll decide, okay, I will authorize a recovery interruption for traumatic injury. But if no traumatic incident occurred during that play, then the referee will tell the player, I'm sorry, you have to keep playing because I will not authorize a recovery interruption. It's basically, okay. We understand, especially now at the beginning, where the players are used to a different system and they are not yet educated to the new regulations. We understand that sometimes the players, they will ask, okay? In any case, it's not in their right, and the referee will explain, okay, it's my decision to decide yes or no, but it's not a problem that the player asks. But in fact, the player has no right to ask anymore. Before they had the right, now it's at the discretion of the referee. And this is why at the beginning of this presentation, I insisted that the referees must very carefully follow the action so that they understand what happened during the play. And if a medical timeout should be authorized or not, or a medical timeout or a recovery interruption.
Okay.
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 Did I answer to the question?
Yes.
Okay.
We have another question from Aida Leila. She is an international referee from Africa, from Tunisia.
Yeah,
she asked a bit long question. When the first referee judges the case as minor and can be quickly resolved, the athlete must first use a team timeout or technical timeout or set interval. But if
No,
the
no.
player...
No. Can I interrupt?
Yes, of course.
No. If the action is minor, if the case is minor, we don't start a medical timeout, so the player does not have to use a timeout or any eventual interruption at that time. No, this is solved as before, as we used to do with the medical timeout. If this is minor, a minor injury, it's fixed in 15, 20 seconds and the game goes, okay?
Yes.
The only if we move to the medical assistance protocol, only if the referee authorizes the medical assistance protocol, then first if the player has a timeout available, the team has to use this timeout, okay? Or if we go to the set interval, or if it's the last point before the last rally before a technical timeout, first we try to fix it during the break, and then if not possible, then the referee will authorize the medical assistance. Okay, understand?
Yes.
Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
But there is another question from Francine Muliko. Hi, my question is, what about the health and the incident of and injuries of referee during the match? Referee.
The referee, we had a case in London of a referee that had to be replaced during the match because of an incident, a health incident. So in this case, the rule, it's foreseen in the rule that the second referee goes to first referee and the reserve referee goes for second referee. This is how it works. That's the regulation. Of course, if a referee has a little incident that can be fixed quickly, 1 minute, something like this, okay, we fix it. But if it's something more serious, then we need to replace the referee. This must be looked at on a case-by-case basis. It depends where we are, It depends the importance of the match. It depends if the match is broadcasted or not. It depends if we have a full stadium. In a side court with no spectators, eventually we could ask the players to keep warming up and interrupt for 2-3 minutes if a referee needs some assistance because cut themselves or had a little problem. But we have to look at the situation. We must decide on a case-by-case basis. But the rule that we have in place is if a referee is not capable to pursue his job or her job officiating the match, then we replace this referee. If it's the second referee, the reserve goes for second. If it's the first, the second goes for first, and the reserve goes for second. This is foreseen in the rules. So.
Another question from Hassan from Morocco. In absence of technical supervisor and referee delegate, for any reason, the first referee can decide to start the medical timeout?
No, in fact, the job of the first referee is totally independent in this situation, in this scenario of the medical timeout or the recovery interruption, is totally independent from the technical delegate and the referee delegate. Now we call the referee coach, but it's totally independent. They have to do their job. They call in the procedures. If the referee study, they will see. They keep calling the technical delegate and the referee coach to the court, but the decision is made by the referee. It's not made by them. And eventually they can arrive already. We started the medical timeout, or already we started the recovery interruption. But it's the decision of the first referee. It's not the decision to start a medical timeout or start the recovery interruption. is not the decision of the technical delegate or the referee coach. It's a decision of the first referee.
Okay. Also, we have a question from Noha Mustafa from Egypt. What is the task of second referee in the moment of starting the protocol?
Noha has to study. That's written in, you know, these are details. I didn't go for the details because I would need like many hours to go through all the details. But that's why I said that the referees have to carefully study, because many of these little things changed. Now, before we had, for instance, the second referee blowing the whistle for 5 minutes and starting the medical timeout in the past. Now it's the first referee that makes this decision. From the moment of the, let me try to give a quick overview of the situation with the new regulations. We need a very clear protocol of communication between the second referee and the first referee at the time of the incident. Because, I try to explain, because it's the first referee that makes the decision if they will start or not the medical assistance protocol. But it's the second referee that goes to the player after the incident or after whatever, when the player sits in the sand and tries to get a medical assistance protocol. It's the second referee is the first person that goes to the player. Okay. Now, let's imagine that the player says to the second referee, okay, you know, I'm really injured and there was a clash or something, or I'm bleeding, you know, or the referee sees the player is bleeding. So it's necessary, and it's eventually the second referee sees it's minor, or eventually the second referee sees it's serious. So it's really important. But the critical aspect is, for instance, in a recovery interruption for traumatic incident. Let's imagine that from the point of view of the first referee, there is no traumatic incident. And from the point of view of the second referee, there is a traumatic incident, because he can see, for instance, the ankle of the player swelling, okay, going bigger, you know? So here, that's why I say it's necessary. Again, experience will teach us how to deal with these situations, because again, as I said at the beginning in my preambles, we have no experience yet about these things. So only experience will give us feedback and teach us how to deal with these situations. But anticipating what can happen, if we have here different point of view from one referee and the other, remember, only the first referee is entitled to start the procedure, okay? And to authorize the procedure. But the first referee, to authorize the procedure, must come down the stand. But we don't want that the referee comes down the stand and then checks and goes back to the stand because he decides that there is no need for authorizing a recovery interruption. So this is why we need a clear protocol of communication between the first and the second referee. If we have the vocero, okay, when we use the vocero, it's easy. We can communicate. But when we don't have vocero, most probably from the moment of the incident, we will have to ask the second referee to quickly go to the first referee stand, discuss for a bit, and then they decide. For instance, the second referee says, goes to the referee and says, you know, there was the player, in fact, there was no clash, there was no physical, we could not see a clash of the player against the pole or against the opponent, but he twisted the ankle because it's already swollen, and we can see that. Okay, in this case, first referee comes on the stand and authorizes the recovery interruption. However, if the second referee goes to the first referee and says, you know, he says he's injured, I don't see anything, we didn't see any clash, so and the referee will tell the player, no, I will not authorize, and does not need to come down the stand. You understand? Or between making the difference between minor and significant. For instance, second referee looks at there was a little flash under the net, and the second referee looks at the situation of the player, talks to the player, and they realize, okay, this is minor. We don't need a medical timeout. So he can make like a visual communication with the first referee and make a little private signal saying no need for medical assistance, no need for recovery interruption, for instance. Or the same with the blood. If he sees a little cut, he can say to the referee, no need for medical timeout. We will fix this as minor, so the referee does not need to come down. But this is something that experience will tell us. But now let's go back to the question of Noha, which is the job of the second referee. So the job of the second referee will be, as in the past, to be the first one contacting with the player, okay? And trying to understand what's happening and communicating to the first referee. Then the next job, the first referee, if we are going to authorize a medical assistance protocol, first referee comes down and deals with starting, second referee calls medical doctor, calls technical delegate, calls referee coach, etc. And then as soon as, and depending on what the player said about the medical assistance, if they want their own or if they want official medical assistance, the referee will initiate the protocol, and the first referee will be the one communicating with the scorer to make sure that we have the right timing, the right decisions. So the roles and the duties of the second referee and the first referee with this new regulation changed a bit. So we need that the referees study this, because everything is written in the regulations, especially at the protocol, at the part of the medical assistance protocols. Everything is very clear. What's the duty of the first, second referee? Who has to do this? Who has to do that? Who finalizes? Who initiates? Etc. 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 So we need that the referees very carefully study all these points. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There is a question from Robinson. In case of heavy cramping of a player, during a women's match, how will it be classified if the player says it is that time of the month, but I don't need to use the toilet?
There are the regulations, in fact, they establish exceptions. But in this case, for instance, it would not be a decision of the referee. In this case, yes, we would need to involve medical doctor and we would need to involve the technical delegate. But in the regulation, in fact, there is the possibility for this exception. Could be other kind of exceptions, but it would not be the decision of the referee. So in this case, if the player comes to the referee and says, I'm having this problem, blah, 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 then the referee should immediately call to the court medical doctor and technical delegate for them to make a decision. It's a bit out of the hands of the referee.
Okay.
This is an exception.
Okay. Also, Phoebe asks, in case when the technical team has earlier informed the referee officials of harsh weather conditions, very cold weather, for example, and a player with asthma issues gets affected while playing, should the player have previously declared before the match that they have asthma?
That's an interesting question, but I'm really again, all this is new, and I don't want to make rules myself. I cannot make rules for the FIB. This is an interesting question which we have to raise. in the beach commission eventually and in the referee commission. But one thing I would like to clarify is that the extreme weather conditions only apply, this recovery interruption time only applies for extreme heat. When the weather is cold, the only thing we authorize the players is to use special uniforms, cold weather gear, cold weather uniform. But we don't declare extreme weather conditions for the cold weather. So the players would not benefit from a recovery interruption in case of cold weather, only in case of extreme hot weather, but because of humidity and all these things. But the cases that we are raising here are health condition aspects in relation to the player. If I make the correct interpretation of the statement of the president, I would say that this player, my idea would be, but again, I say I don't make rules, so this needs to be discussed. But if I try to make the correct interpretation of the words of the president when he said, if a player is ill, sick, or if a player is out of shape, or if a player has an injury, then this player should not go and play the tournament. He should stay at home. He should try to recover. He should not go and play the tournament because we cannot award medical assistant protocols if a player is sick, goes play a tournament sick, or if a player goes play a tournament in bad conditions because they have an injury that they did not cure yet. The medical assistance protocols should not be for this, should be only to help the players that suffered from an incident in the match, not something that is carried. Like, okay, bad luck for me if I have asthma, but if I have asthma, most probably when the weather is not helping me, I cannot play. This is my interpretation, but again, this needs to be clarified with the FAB at the right commissions.
Again, our active technical delegate, Dr. Rodrigue, asked another question. When there is no official medical personnel available in the court, and the first referee has to initiate recovery interaction protocol immediately, is that determined based on the fact that there is no official medical personnel close to the court, or we wait a bit and decide?
Just let me go.
Sorry?
No, give me one second.
Okay.
I need 1 second to read something to the referees in relation to that. Almost there. So the question was?
The question again?
Sí, yes, please.
Yes, from Dr. Rodrigue, when there is no official medical personnel available.
Available, yes.
And the first referee have to initiate recovery interaction protocol immediately. Is that determined based on the fact that there is no official medical personnel close to the court, or we wait a bit and decide?
No. That's. I think I mentioned. I mentioned that. Of course, the first referee has to try to understand and study the situation, and if we know we don't have medical personnel available, then this is one thing, okay, and so the decision can be made immediately. But if we know we have people available, but we need to investigate, we need to investigate to see if they are busy, imagine on another court, or eventually they left without informing anybody and moved to their medical area, something like this, or they are switching groups and one group left and the new group did not arrive yet. So we need to investigate and in good faith try to make the best decision, not prevent the player from getting the right of getting medical assistance if this will take, like a little more, 45 seconds, 1 minute than what was expected. But of course, if we cannot find a solution, if we don't have an answer, then yes, we need to make a decision. But again, remember one thing for everybody, we are in an experimental period. We are learning with all of us, we are learning with this new process. And we are also teaching other people, like, for instance, the medical crews at the tournaments, like the players, like the organizers. So hopefully, if everybody knows what is doing, it will be easier to put this system in place and to have a credible system for the future. What we need to understand is that we do not want to go back to the past, where the players would use this as a tactic, would abuse this system to stop the match and delay the match. And also we need to make sure that the organizers understand that this is a vital system for our game, and that they need to provide the necessary quantity and quality of medical crews, medical assistance to cover the needs of all courts, okay? And this is, again, a learning process. But if everybody understands from their own side and from their own angle what we need to do to make this work, things will be easier. But again, for the question of Rodrigue, learning process, we need to be flexible, a bit flexible at the beginning, but make sure that we do not facilitate so much that we go back to the past. So we need somehow, we are in a learning curve, but also we need to send a message so people understand that this is something different, something new, not something like in the past, okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Casanova. Of course, we have a high caliber guest today, and the questions are are limitless. So, but our time is approaching the end.
Yes.
So we transfer the order directly to Dr. Amr Alwani, the CAVB President and FIB Vice President, to finalize this very interesting webinar. Thank you, Mr. Casanova, again.
Thank you.
And Dr. Amr Alwani, please. You have the right to speak now.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I believe it was very, very interesting session with a lot of information. I believe even this session could be done in 3 or 4 sessions, because to digest what's been saying, it's very, 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 very much. Casanova, thank you very much for this knowledge. And I know that you are, beach volleyball in your blood. It is really in your blood. You started as a player and all the steps and everything is okay. So I believe that we already winning to have you in this webinar in Africa. And of course, I want to remind you what I always say, that Africa and the African player is coming very, very quick. Like we said, the referee in beach volleyball referee are coming very high quickly. But with this knowledge, the supporting team of beach volleyball players and the players and the coaches and of course the official will benefit from this lecture. And this will put us again, what I'm always saying, that one of the African team will be in the podium in the next Olympics. Okay?
Hope so.
So wish us
congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you for all the job done for Africa Beach Volleyball, for the referees, for everybody. Thank you very much. And thank you for this invitation. It was a big pleasure from my side.
Okay. Thank you very much for everybody. Tariq, Suleiman, Adwar, Ihab, Enzo, okay, and Mondi, everybody involved in this seminar. It will be fantastic. And I hope we can repeat it on a different subject where we can benefit. Thank you very much, everybody. And see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you very much, all. And again, we thank the African Volleyball Confederation and its president, Dr. Abra Alwani, for this very fruitful session. Of course, having a guest conducting and officiating more than 500 international matches, the referees following us now know well how to conduct more than 500 matches. It is our quality. It is the high caliber guest we have today. Thank you very much, Mr. Jose Casanova, for your input, and we welcome you again in another subject, like Mr. President said, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you for your conduction. Thank you.